Here we are in November, December 1976, back in time. And I know from the previous ones that this is getting crunch time for me. Rick Clunn's, is he going to survive in this new occupation he chose? Because I didn't realize how close it was to me not making the classic that eventually changed my whole career. But this is here was an interesting observation made by the editor here, because we had gone through some depressions and recessions, and even in that first year, I forget exactly which one. I think the oil embargo was one of them. But the one thing that people started noticing, I'm just going to read it. There was a time when a marine dealer would look at you puzzled when asked to see his bass boats. Not anymore. The bass boat boom just seems to keep rocketing along. Depressions, recessions, elections, and good times or bad, bass fishing and bass boating may be slowed down a bit, but only a little bit. And that really held kind of true. In fact, there was the old cliche that came out even back then that us bass fishermen were a lot like alcoholics. In good times we drink, in bad times we drink more. And fishing, when times are good, you fish. When they're bad, you fish more. So I thought it was too, but anyway, and also this issue, 1976, it called Glastron Super Aluminums. They're coming on strong. I just brought in, this is 1925.
This is 2025.
2025, and I just introduced a real super aluminum in the Tracker Savage 215, and I love the boat. I've always needed a boat a little bit bigger for the giant waters, aluminum-wise. I've always liked aluminum, and aluminum are great, but I needed a little bit bigger boat for the huge water. So they were thinking about it back then. And Ray's still selling classic boats here. And here I am setting a bad example again.
Let's get a picture of that. I can't believe they talked you into that.
They did, and I did it.
Okay.
Yeah, I did it. I got Glastron bass boats as a sponsor through my sister, Linda. She knew Gus and Linda were sailboaters in Austin, Texas, and that's where Glastron's home office was. And she knew that sailboat designer, and she told him about me, and she said, and he just happened to say, well, you know, Glastron's really looking on getting a professional angler to promote their bass boats. That's how I got the job, through my sister, and I still haven't paid her a dime of agency fee for that. So, and it was one of the best deals in all of our sport at that point in time. Glastron was the largest boat manufacturer in the world at that time. But the oil embargo destroyed them within 3 years of what you're seeing me in this picture. Because all they made, they didn't make bass boats. In fact, when Peter Purse, the president of Glastron, fired me, he was a super nice guy, but he came out and said, Rick, we're going to have to let y'all go. And I'd gotten Randy Fite on the team, Larry Nixon on the team, and Chris Houston on the team. And he came out and said, we're going to have to let y'all all go. And he said, I wish we would have got into the bass boats sooner. He said, because they're the only thing, that and the giant expensive yachts are the only thing showing any recession proof. And so that was, again, it's just the volatile world of fishing. Here's the super aluminums, which are really, of course, again, this was 1976, and they definitely were changing, the world. And there was a lot more aluminum manufacturers back then. They really were still kind of small boats. Johnny Morris really is the one that he finally started, that he manufactured and built one that was completely rigged. And most of these boats, a guy bought the boat, bought the troll motor, and he'd tell his dealer what engine he wanted, and then they would build it right there in the dealership. There was a lot of them back then. more aluminum boats. And this boat here was actually a boat that was built for a tournament that I ended up winning in 1977,
That one?
the Bass Champ boat. I'm not sure who built that boat. I was thinking that Johnny built that boat, but I don't know if he did or not. And I gave it to my dad, because that's what we won, that and a little bit of money, on Percy Priest in Tennessee. This is just humorous, because all the props back then, when people buy all those boats you see were aluminum. You see what aluminum props look like after just a little bit in a fisherman's water. If you're a recreational driver, they were okay, but fishermen just went shallow, and they were in stumps, they were in logs, and they wouldn't last very long. So slowly but surely, all bass fishermen went to a stainless steel prop. This is the other thing here. Did I skip one?
So,
No, it's just more aluminum boats.
okay.
But Skyline, I'll tell you the story later, but Skyline Industries, when I did qualify for the 76 Classic, even though I wasn't qualified at this point in time reading this magazine, sent us all 6 brand new graphite rods. I mean, it's the most beautiful rods I'd ever held in my hand. But, and I'm not going to explain it right now, but it almost cost me the BassMaster Classic. And I will go into that in detail when we get to that, probably one of these next magazines. But graphite had such incredible sensitivity. All I had back then was speed sticks, fiberglass speed sticks, little short handle 6-foot rods. Most of them had the tip broke off, and I'd put on another tip. I had maybe 4 or 5 rods to my name, and all of a sudden here's 6 brand new Skyline graphite rods. I went, wow, this is great. I hit the big time, even though I was broke. Dallas Cowboy, Leroy Jordan. And again, here's more of the Bagley bee, and I really got kind of hooked on them. In fact, little honeybee played a huge role in my tournament win at Gunnersville, which I will go into a little bit more later. In fact, a guy named Denver Waltham from Texas and Murtis Driscoll from Houston, both of them, they had a TV show, a fishing TV show in that area. And they were friends of mine. And Denver, right before I went to the Classic, he walked up and handed me a handful of these little honeybees. And I'd never thrown a crankbait that small. He said, you need to take these with you. I said, okay, I will. I'll tell you the story when we get to it. And here again, this is 76, late 76, and we're just first starting to talk about kill switches again. And it's probably one of the best things ever put in a bass boat. That and hydraulic steering. Because back then you would, if you got thrown out of the boat and didn't have a kill switch, the boat had a tremendous amount of torque, and what it would do is just start going in circles. And of course it'll come back around and find you if you're thrown out of it. And if it's not dead, it's going to potentially kill you. I had the lake I guided on, Lake Conroe. We spent 2 days looking for one of the guides on the lake that happened to him. He'd come around and didn't run over him with the engine, but it was just kind of porpoising and come down, just hit him in the head and broke his neck. So they didn't have a kill switch. But since I am religious about kill switch, and it still amazes me when I see people running boats, even nowadays, don't have a life jacket on, and you know then they don't have a kill switch hooked up. First women's tournaments came out, and of course they're still the Beauty and the Beast. And I was trying to see if I recognize any of the ladies in here. The ones I'm looking for is like Chris Houston, but I actually do not see her. Yeah, or Penny Behrman maybe. But that's a pretty large field. Some of the best anglers I've ever drawn back when women were allowed to fish even in our tournaments. Some of those female anglers are still some of the best I ever have drawn. Of course, they're getting real sexy here. It's just human nature. We can't get over it. She eventually ended up running for the longest time the women's circuit. Dang, she was young then. This is the ringworm. Rebel wasn't the first one to bring it in. There's a really wonderful story about the ringworm and how I actually got with the original Lucky Strike company. John Hendrick's father, he used to make ringworms and other little baits, and he'd put them in the back of his pickup truck and travel all over the country and go in every little tackle store and try to sell them. And finally he got John to be riding around with him. I mean, literally like gypsies, going across selling their magic, medicine and stuff for fishing out of a little pickup truck. And that's where John really learned the business. He learned the business of selling and all of that. And that's how I got with ringworm. I started fishing ringworms not the conventional way, but on the back of my spinnerbaits. And almost every single big tournament I've ever won has had a ringworm on the back of them. And so it's, again, a lot of it's just memories for me, but that was one of the best ones.
What company does John own now? He doesn't own Lucky Strike.
No, Lucky Strike changed hands. It got into some corporate hands, and who knows whatever happens when you get a corporate business taking you over. And John now has a company called Headhunter, and it's basically he still sells my spinnerbait, the Trickster, and he sells my jerkbait, which was the RC jerkbait, and he still does real well with them, but it's called Headhunter now, not the original company, which was Lucky Strike. Oh, this is the win that broke my heart. I mean, the second place, I don't even know if I was second, but the tournament that I didn't win broke my heart. But it also propelled me into the Classic, because it was, I think, the last one of the year. And I led it going into the final day. And I had made a trip up into Illinois right before this tournament. This was on Cordell Hall in Tennessee. And I saw this strange bait, which was a buzzbait, and they were a lunker lure. I'd never seen them before. And I threw it a couple of days up there in practice and had one fish hit it, but certain baits just have this effect on you. You just go, that will work. And anyway, I went straight from Illinois down to Cordell Hall, which is in northern Tennessee. And I learned two important things, well, a lot of things that day. I started throwing it, couldn't hardly get a bite. I tied on that lunker lure down there in practice the last day and caught two nice fish. And the first day of the tournament, I took it in there and I took the lead. But again, here's how you're inexperienced. I was throwing the lunker lure and I was throwing it on all things 12-pound test line. Ridiculous, because the line's not even in the water on a buzzbait. And right at the end of the day, I threw in between, it was a young lake, flooded bushes. And I threw in between these two bushes and a 5-pounder ate it. And it went in both bushes, but I got it out and put it in the boat. Immediately, I was running out of time because I had to run about 30 minutes back to the marina, and I was only running an 80 horsepower engine. I didn't believe in the big 150s, even though you could have run a 150 back then. And I threw right back in that same cast, another 5-pounder in. He went in one of the bushes, and I got him out of it. Okay. Then I immediately got him out and looked, I can make one more cast. I threw it in there, and another big one ate it and broke my line. I hadn't retied, 12-pound test line, totally predictable. It wasn't bad luck, it was negligence on my part. And so I ran up there and I took the lead in the tournament. The next day I came back, I caught another good bag and kept the lead. And then right at the end of the day I made a cast, hadn't retied, and that buzzbait's somewhere up in those woods on that bank. I wish I'd got out of the boat or going back and tried to find it, because I thought, I got back there and I said, went to every angler I knew. Do you have any of these? Do you have any? No, I never heard of that. Don't even know what that is. And ended up losing it by 12 ounces. Didn't have my limit, 12 ounces. And so that was a real learning experience. The other thing I learned about that one was speed didn't mean outrunning people, because we were launching way up in the upper end of the lake, and it was a 30-minute run in my 80 horsepower all the way down to the dam, and that's where what few fish were being caught were caught down in the warmer water by the dam. And I'm thinking all the way home, okay, you know, these other boats, even the 150s were really only beating me 10 minutes down and 10 minutes back. I didn't think at first that's significant. Then I went, okay, that's 20 minutes a day. It's a 3-day tournament. That's an hour. How many casts could I make a minute? With buzzbait, I could probably make 3-4 casts a minute. So let's just say 3 casts a minute in an hour. That's 180 casts I lost. And then I realized speed is not about outrunning people. It's about how many casts you lose if you don't have it. And from that point on, I went to 150 horsepower. So, but anyway, I think I ended up second behind this boy from Louisiana. I forget his name. I kind of, let me look at it because I don't want to not say his name, but Wade Reed from Louisiana. And I think Jack Haynes ended up, no, I was second behind Wade Reed. And I think that moved me all the way up out of the Classic into 17th place. And again, remember they only took, you know, actually I only caught 1 2-pounder in a 3-pound 11 ouncer the final day, which left me 12 ounces shy of my first BASS win ever. But it was a learning deal, and but I squeaked out of it, and boy, squeaking out of it into the Classic really became, you know, even thinking about it now, it makes me nervous. What if, where would you be right now, Rick? Would you be sitting there holding this magazine? Probably not.